All right, we're live. Mm, good morning. So I hope that everybody has a good cup of coffee, something like that, to start their day with. And it's actually not morning; it's getting into the afternoon here. So what I'm doing is, so I didn't have a live stream reloading workshop this last week because of my job, and I knew that in advance. I had announced that. But so this morning I came out, lifted weights, worked out, pumped some iron, got done, told myself I'm ready to reload some 41 Magnum. And so over the next 2, 3 weeks, that's what I'm going to be playing with for myself, along with my 300 PRC, working with the awesome Hornady bullet on that. And so for me personally, the two projects I have going is my 300 PRC and my 41 Remington Magnum. We have 5 on. Good to see y'all. Hope you had a good week. So, all right, I got to tell you guys this. I had such an outstanding week. And so I acquired a new gun. This bad boy right here. Ruger Blackhawk 41 Magnum, and the serial number is in the 3000s. And so I acquired it, and with it, I also got 900 rounds of ammunition. Some of those were reloads, but a lot of those were new federal hollow point ammo. And so I did really good. I was just really blessed. And the guy I bought it from turned out to be such a good guy. His name's Tom. Tom, if you're out there, dude, you were so great to work with. So now I've got the itch to do some 41 Magnum, and I want to load up some Hornady XTP, some 210 grain bullets, and it should be a lot of fun. So I guess I better make sure I'm live because I don't see anyone commenting, but I do see we have 7 on. And so I understand a lot of times people can't comment because they're not logged on. So I totally understand that. Um, Now, this isn't going to be an overly long live stream because, oh, there's Tactical Fud. I am live. I am live. And I see Bear Lake is on there too. Aha, he got that Ruger thing going. I see that, brother. So I'm going to go to Golden Corral here after this. Replace some of those calories I burnt up, throwing the weights around this morning. Okay, so we got a new guy, Richard Hoiberg. It's really good to have you. Everyone's welcome, Richard, to the channel. And then there we have the bouncer of the house, Timothy Burkett. If anyone gets out of line, he will escort him out. He's laughing. Yeah. Okay. So, very good, very good. So I think really what I ought to do, I think before we roll, I'm going to give you a close up of these revolvers. Wait, who wants a close up of the revolvers? I'm not gonna waste your time. Maybe people they don't want a close up, but maybe some guys do want a close up. Do you want to see a close up of those 3 revolvers? Um, you can tase them first. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, you can. We got one yes. One yes is good enough. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a close up. Now I can't touch them. YouTube YouTube guidelines, and that's okay. I totally get it. But we can kind of have a sneak peek of them. Ah, look at that. That nice. Oh yeah. These two are the 3 screw models. So the one in the middle. That one has a serial number in the 9,000s. It's one of the original free screw revolvers. And man, it shoots. It flat shoots. You point it. If you're doing your job on the sights, it'll do its job every time. And it's not picky or fussy about different loads. It pretty much shoots them all. And so the one on the right, that's a new model 41 Magnum that I shot the heck out of. And I got a really good deal on it because it really had a crummy factory action on it. It just did. It just, I'm sure someone bought it, they didn't like it, and they sold it, and it was sitting over in the Cabela's library, and I walked up and looked at it, and it had it was just like a 2x4 action, clunk, clunk, clunk. And I looked at the guy, and I offered him a low ball price, and he said, "It's yours. It's yours. We want it out of here." And so I bought it, came home, and put it away. After a while, I pulled it out, and I began running the action over my stone, just touching up the right spots to it. Took me probably 4 or 5 tries, and man, that thing shoots nice now. Cock's nice. The trigger's crisp, nice and smooth action, and so it's a great revolver. Super good. So then this one here, right there. It's got a serial number in the 3000s, and it's the 4 5/8. It was manufactured in '66. I have not shot it yet, but I'm going to. So that's why I'm all motivated to load me up some 41 Magnum. So I'll kind of show you guys the bullet that I'm going to use. I'm going to go through the components, and then we'll call everybody out. We've got some really good people. We got Patriot Nation, Rex Chandler, Bravo Delta. We'll be calling you guys off pretty quick. So Rex, he just wants them all. He's like me. He wants them all. I get it. So I've been wheeling and dealing. You see all these boxes over here? Those are empty. They got brass in them, and I got to go through them and sort them. I just put them in the box in my 5-gallon bucket. But I got to pull them all apart and analyze them, see which are good, which I don't want. The ones that I keep, I will keep. The ones that aren't up to being reloaded, I will recycle. So if you're wondering what's in the 5-gallon bucket, that's what it is, guys. I'm always wheeling and dealing. When I travel, I'm stopping at gun shops. I'm wheeling. I'm dealing. Okay. Bravo Delta. Highboy, you're the reason I own one of these bad boys. The Ruger Blackhawks are bad boys. They are. Okay, the bullet I'm going to use. This is the 41 Magnum is a big bore revolver, okay? A big bore revolver, what this tells us, okay, the 41 Magnum, it's the in-between between 357 Magnum and 44 Magnum. So, in other words, the 41 Magnum is going to have definitely more horsepower than the 357 Magnum, but it's not going to have that heavy recoil. Being a .410 bullet, you know, the 44 Magnum is only a .429. So in terms of diameter, we're not much behind the 44 Magnum. Now, don't fall into this trap. You'll start seeing guys talking about the 41 Magnum outdoing the 44 Magnum in terms of power, however they want to call it. No, the 44 Magnum puts out more. It's got much more brute force than the 41 Magnum. I've ran them both for years. The 41 will not outperform the 44. It just won't. Okay? So the 41 caliber, 40 caliber and up is considered big bore, meaning if you have a round nose bullet loaded into that 40 caliber cartridge, you can use that as a defense round or for taking even a big game animal. Anything smaller than that that has a round nose, it will enter the flesh and the flesh will just close behind it. I saw, yes, AR Patriot is correct. The 44 is more powerful than the 41 for sure. He's dead on with that. You can't argue it. Bigger is bigger. It's always bigger. Okay. So I saw a really interesting video about this guy. He gets shot multiple times by a person that's shooting a small bore pistol, and he's shooting these. He's shooting. I'll come up here. He's shooting these round nose. Well, it slows the video down, and when you see the person getting hit, the skin closes up almost perfect. And this person is just getting hit, and his skin closes up, and he remains mobile. The guy didn't have a shirt on, nothing. It's one of these videos that I had the opportunity to analyze. And it's the same way with an animal. An animal, especially with the hair and the thickness of the hide, a small bore bullet goes into that, it's just going to close up. Much like these new targets they have, the self-sealing target, you shoot it and it seals up. Well, that's what the human skin's like. That's what the hide is like on an animal. So if you shoot a bear that's charging at you, you shoot him and it penetrates, it's just going to kind of close up with a small bore round nose bullet. But once we get into the big bore, now the big bore is different. It leaves such a big hole that the skin really can't close up over that, and now the animal's bleeding out. Okay, so that's our 41 Magnum. Now, on small bore, the reason we want a hollow point is a hollow point is going to open. We want penetration and destruction, and we want a big hole. So that's what we're doing with a small bore projectile. Now we got a big bore. A round nose leaves a nice hole for bleed out. But now we're going to, our bullet of choice is we're going to put, and this is my opinion, this is one of the best handgun bullets on the market. It's a brutal bullet. It's a performing bullet. It's very accurate. It's a very precise performing bullet. Okay. You're going to, it's designed for hunting, personal defense, and law enforcement application. It's got a controlled expansion to 1.5 times its original diameter. Now, our goal is for the hunting application or self-defense is you want tissue destruction. That's the name of the game. If you're going to take a brain shot or a spine shot, you want to hit those. So the more diameter we have, the greater chance you have of destructing what you hit. Okay, heart shot, boom. Okay, brain, spine, heart, we got a better chance of hitting those. But second to brain, spine, heart is bleeding out, just plain bleeding out. We want a hole. We want a big hole right here. It's going to give us a big hole. It's a very destructive hole. Okay. Now, this always tells you the recommended velocity range. The recommended velocity range for this bullet is 700 to 1500 feet per second. I would say I love casting and I love working with cast bullets, but I would say if I only had one choice of bullet, if someone says, okay, for the rest of your life, you can only work with one bullet in all your handguns, particularly my revolvers right here. But I love the XTP in my 45. It it is a performing bullet. I'm telling you, very very hard to beat. Okay, this will go through a frame of a 1980 Monte Carlo. Ask me how I know. Right through the frame like that, leaves a perfect hole. Okay. Um, so now we have to have this in a velocity range of seven. What did it say? 7 to 1,500 feet per second. So you realize now, just you're going to hear my voice here. At the recipe I'm running, my min is with running H110 is going to be 1,100 feet per second. So even my min charge, I'm 400 feet per second above what's required of this bullet. For one thing, you want to kind of get out of your mindset. So our min charge on this is 19.5, and our max charge is 22.7. At that 22.7, we're cooking along at 1,400 feet per second. So we're at our max charge, we're 100 feet per second slower than our 1,500 feet. So what a lot of reloaders do is they say, well, I'm going to go right for that 22.7. They're going to go right for a max charge. What you're better off to do is develop an accuracy load with these. I'm going to tell you why these things are so accurate. On a hollow point bullet like this, it is deadly precise accurate because of the mass difference in the base. Because the hollow point is hollowed out, we have this extra weight in the back that builds the precision into that bullet. This added weight now, it's going to push the bullet for penetration. Got me? So what we want to do is we really want to find an accuracy load. This bullet's going to perform its job from min to max. We want as much penetration as we can get while we are maintaining precision. So you would be best to develop an accuracy load with this. Now, that's not to say that if you are in the backwoods and you know you're going to be running if you're in the backwoods and you're not going to be, there's a good chance you're going to be using this as something that's going to be charging you. Now you might want to pump it up to max, because now it's not about accuracy. Think about it. If you're being charged by a bear or an animal that's coming at you, the amount that you're going to shake and the amount of movement the animal is giving you when it's approaching you, that's going to be much greater than, that bullet's going to perform more precise than you are offhand at that violent of a closeness. Okay, does that make sense? In other words, let's say our max load on this isn't as accurate as other shot groups, but it offers us a decent shot group, right? Well, guess what? That's going to be a better shot group than you can shoot offhand with an animal charging you. So with that, penetration is going to be king. You might actually want to just go straight up to that max charge, except you're going to work up to that charge. Now listen very carefully to me. Our min charge here is 19.5. Our max charge is 22.7. There's nothing wrong with loading these up at 22.7, except you're going to want to drop. What I would do personally is I would drop to about, say, 21.7, maybe 21.1. I would work up to that max charge, okay? And that's how I would achieve that, okay? So never just go straight to max. Never just go loading these up and going straight for your max. You want to work up, watch for signs of pressure. You want to chronograph these. So let's talk about signs of pressure. When I say working for signs of pressure, what are we really looking for? There's a couple of things here. One, you'll hear people say that if you get a flattened primer, that's a bad thing. No, that is not. Sometimes you're going to get a flattened primer just because that's what a magnum round does. Okay, let's talk about this for a moment. Okay, in our minds, when we load, if this had a primer in it and we chambered it and we fired it, in our mind, we think that the primer ignites, and then the primer ignites the powder, and then we have bullet movement. But there's something mechanical happening in there that a lot of reloaders they're not wise to. What it is for a brief moment in time, your primer backs out. When the firing pin strikes the primer, it's going to ignite and everything has to go through that little hole. Well, guess what? Equal and opposite, going to do the same force in the same directions. The primer is going to pop out for a brief moment, and then what's going to happen is upon the recoil, the case is going to reseat that primer. That's why on your revolver, that's called a recoil shield. A recoil shield. You have a lot going on. Okay? Your rifle rounds coming back on the bolt of your rifle, you got a tremendous amount of energy. Okay? So on our round now, that primer, it's going to back out just a little bit. And then, bam, it's going to reseat it. Okay? So logic would tell us the more powder you're burning, the more horsepower you're going to have, which means the harder, and harder that's going to reseat that primer. That's why some primers that are flat, and that's okay until they become overly flat. How would you know an overly flat primer? Well, I'll tell you. When you shoot, you're going to load these up and you're going to stick one round in the revolver and you're going to go bang. And you're going to eject it out. If it goes bang and it ejects out smoothly and you have a flattened primer, I would say that's probably going to be okay. And you're chronographing these as you go, right? Your velocity is matching somewhere in the neighborhood of your book, something practical, right? But all of a sudden, you load one up and you go, boom! And when you go to eject it, it does not want to eject. It's really kind of hard to get out. When a case is hard to eject out of a revolver, that's an indication that you are getting a little high on your internal pressures. At that point, if you have a flattened primer with a case that's hard to eject, that's your indication Now I'm getting a little too high up there. I got to start watching and watch for splits on your cases. That's very bad. Now, if you, boom, if after you fire it, if it's hard to eject, you have a flattened primer and you have soot around the primer, that is very bad. You need to back it off. You're going to destroy the gun. And I'll tell you something. If you did that in January and you had soot around that primer and you were to pull the trigger on that same round in August, there's a good chance you would have blown your gun up. This is how critical this is. So when you're working your loads up, now you'll read in loaded data manuals, they'll say if you want to go a max charge, you can go max and drop 10%. Guys, I don't do it that way. If I'm going to go up somewhere near max, I really don't go near max. I don't. I used to. I was young and dumb, and hey, that's how we learn in life. But what I've learned is what I do, and this is personally me. I start mid-range. If I want to go somewhere close, or if I were going to go to a max charge, then I would start somewhere in the middle and begin working up. You got to understand something. I'm going to show you this. If Hornady is saying we're starting at 19.5 and we can go 22.7, if I start at 19.5 and increment a half a grain, that's a lot of components I'm wasting. So I really can come somewhere here in the mid-range and I can begin working up looking for an accuracy load. All right, that's practical. What I'm not going to do is say, oh, there's my, oh man, 22.7. I'm going to drop just 10% off that. I don't do it that way. I'm going to come back here, and I'll tell you why. Because you might find right around here a really good accuracy round, and you'll notice getting higher above that. It's just harder on the revolver, it's harder on your hand, and there's not that accuracy. So for me, I would rather kind of, and there's nothing wrong with coming down to 19.5 and working up. Guys, this bullet works once you're hitting 700 feet per second. Well, our min charge is 11. So there's nothing wrong with coming down here with some Hodgson's H110 and starting at 19.5 and working up for there. And you might just find, I always find around 60% up is where I'm going to find my accuracy. Okay. So that's our bullet and that's our powder. I'm running Hodgson 8110. So you want to be really smart. You want to sneak up on these loads. Now this brings us to a problem. Oh my gosh. This is a problem, huge problem. I'm working up an accuracy load, but I have 3 revolvers. Let's do roll call and I'll finish off with this. Okay, I want everyone to type 41 Magnum and I'll call you out. I see we got Brian Manila and Critter 9A. All right, you guys. Patriot Preacher, it's good to see you, brother. Patriot Preacher, he's in on the 41 Magnum. Brian Bonilla, 41 Magnum. Critter A, 41 something. Bear Lake, 1624. He wants a 41 Magnum. Good to see you, Critter. All right. Running with scissors. No lead is the best cleaner. You got it, buddy. Oh, man. A lever action 41 Magnum. That's on my bucket list, let me tell you. Okay, so we got to talk about this. I'm going to save you guys a lot of headache going down the road. I'm going to do an accuracy load, but I have 3 of those. I want you to wrap your mind around this. Last night, I was going through my guns. I have 11 44 Magnums and 11 357 Magnums. How do you approach that with an accuracy load? Where do you start? Okay. Well, see, we are reloaders. We can run both sides of the gamut. You know that factory ammo that you can go buy and it pretty much works in everything? Okay. Ha. So what if we designed, instead of an accuracy load, just a good performing load? A load that you could, in your average length barrel, gives you the best shot groups. And so now, let's say I'm running this load through a 5.5. Now I know it's going to perform well in a 7.5 and a 4 5/8. We could divide it up that way. Now here I have 2 revolvers, 4 5/8, and one with a 6. I think that's a 6. What I can do with this is I can produce a good functioning round, or, are you ready? You could drive yourself crazy, or what you could do, you could develop the precision round for the longer barreled revolver and make sure it functions well out of the short barreled revolvers. Oh, why? Your long barreled revolvers are going to be a little bit more for getting out there further. You know, if I want to take a deer at, say, 70 yards, I would much rather do it with the 6-inch barrel or a 7.5-inch barrel than a 4 5/8. The 4 5/8, I'm going to be packing that for something close up in the mountains. But if I know I'm going to go out and say, you know, I think I'd like to try and see if I could get me a small buck with this, about 60, 70 yards, that longer barrel is going to favor me a lot better. So I could develop an accuracy round for the longer barrel, and then go through and make sure it functions, and I can get the sights dialed in, and just make sure the shot groups are acceptable for the shorter barrels. Now, if they're not, then I might want to kind of start working my load back on the longer barrel to bring it in on the short barrel. But I've always found that if I favor a long barrel, and I'm only going to 7.5, I don't know what how a 10-inch is going to affect a 4 5/8. I have an idea because I've been using such slow burning powder. But what I'm getting at is I've found that, like, on a barrel that's 7.5, if I've got pretty decent shot groups, it's still going to function through all of my 4 5/8-inch barrels. It's not going to be too bad. So that just kind of gives you an idea. We got Alaska one, Andy, John Williams, Milsurp Duo, 3D Printing Trucker. Dude, it's good to see you. Just know, 3D printing trucker, you've been missed. Just know that. I've wondered where you've been all this time. So, okay. I want to talk about charging cases. Charging your cases. This is some food for thought for you. Take what you want, leave what you don't. So for these handguns, I'm going to be working some loads up. And I do want to be as consistent as possible on my powder charge. Remember, we can dial it in for whatever charge weight we want. But the question is will it hold that? Okay. So for our conversation, we're saying that the powder measure you're using is pretty doggone capable of throwing a charge within, say, 2/10 high, 2/10 low, just something like that, okay? A 2/10 high and 2/10 low on a handgun isn't going to be a big deal breaker. Why? If we're comparing this to something with optics, why is this not going to be a deal breaker 2/10 high or way? I mean, think about it. If you're 2/10 high one time, 2/10 low the next, that's a 4/10 in between two rounds. In optics, that could be really huge. Well, why isn't that a big deal for our handguns? Well, it's because of the short sight radius and the fact that it's not like we have it on a bipod or something like this, okay? So because of that, I can have my powder measure mounted right next to my Turk press, okay? Now, I want you in your mind understand something. This charges by volume, And you're saying, okay, but what's that got to do with this dog in the hunt? Well, I'll tell you why. Over there, where I do my 300 PRC, I have my press. Up here, I have my powder measures. And right here, I have my scales. You with me? That's for my optics over there, okay? I have the 3 powder measures here and the powder scale here for you guys to see. But when I'm by myself and I'm developing my loads, I don't charge my cases and weigh the charge on the same bench that I have vibration. I don't do that. Now let's go back to the dog in the hunt. This charges off of volume. We have another way to charge, and it's off of weight. And I'm going to prove my theory on the weight side of this too. You'll see why, if you're going to use a powder measure that's going to charge your cases by weight, you know, the new digital automatic ones, this is going to affect that. It's going to affect that. Now we're talking optics. Okay. Volume. Jeffrey Dole's in the house. This runs off volume. In your mind, I want you to imagine that right here, I have a row of pepper shakers. And I fill into all those pepper shakers the same amount of pepper. Are you with me? And now I go like this. And they all settle. And I remove one very lightly and I set it aside. And I go like this. and the other 9 settle, and I move one. And then I go like this, and those 8 settle, and I move one. After doing that 10 times, and I get to the 10th one, the 10th one's pepper is going to be lower than the first one I pulled, because it's had 9 more thumps on it based off of this. You don't believe me? We don't have to set a die up for us to learn anything here. We can talk theory and concept that you can carry over into your reloads. Okay? Make sure there's nothing in your powder measure. Okay? Now this is a ball powder. This is going to be a little harder to do this with, but this will prove my point. Okay? Okay, you see the height of our powder there? Okay, kind of watch the powder. Now I'm going to thump my press to the left here. You see that powder fall? You see that powder fall. Now I'm going to do this a few times and watch the powder. Okay? So now as I'm thumping this with my hand, we're really going to see that powder settle into this. Okay? And I'm going to grab my powder pan, and I'm going to cycle this. So what I've done is I've uniformed my powder measure. I had to do more. I'll do a live stream on this coming up here shortly, just on the powder measure end of it. So when you fill your powder measure, you want to start by uniforming it. So now what we've done is we've uniformed the powder to have the same compact consistency roughly from here to here. Roughly. And right here, oh, I forget what we call this. Guys, what do we call that? Sometimes I have a brain fart, and it's okay. Anyway, tell me what that little thing is in there, guys. I can't. A loss of words. What this does is it keeps the powder underneath here, from here to here, the same consistency. So that when we throw by volume, it's always the same volume. Okay, baffle. Thank you. John Williams 40. Thank you very much. The baffle. What the baffle does, the baffle, it doesn't care about the powder above it. Get that out of there. What it's doing is it's uniforming the powder below it. All it cares about is that the powder from here to here has the same volume characteristics. Okay? So, this means as I'm doing this, am I correct that that's got the same thud thud? Do you understand that? Now listen, the shock is designed into this, and the second shock is designed. So what we want is we want this to be the same. You don't want to do this one time and then that the next, and then soft the next, and hard the next. You don't want that. You want to be the same. Okay? So if we want this to be the same, and we're loading precision rifle, and I'm loading, let's say, for 5-shot groups, and I come over here and I throw 5 of these, but then I come over here and I do this 5 times. Oh, you see my powder moving? Oh. And if your powder's moving there, that means it's changing there. You just changed your volume. That's what you did. So for your rifle, you want this and your scale on another bench away from the vibration. Our handgun's fine. Remember, if I happen to be 2/10 high, 2/10 low, when I'm burning still targets up, bang, 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 bang. Look, guys, I don't have my little pistol on a bipod laying out on the ground here, controlling my breath. Shoot the still and get it over with. Get it loaded, get it going, get to the range, shoot, come back, do it again. But with our rifle, now we have optics, and that's different, okay? Some guys will tell me, I can't get this to throw what the manufacturer says it throws. And I say, okay. I used to say, how do you have it set up? Now I say, send me a picture of your setup. And I say, yeah, move that and move your scale on another bench and get it away from this. For the aspect of loading precision, this can work against this. Now, let's talk about by weight. So this is by volume. This has an area in here, a certain diameter area, and it fills it the same every time, unless we compact it more. If you compact it more, hence for compacting, you're going to get more of a charge, and now we have a deviation in our charge weight. So now let's take this to weight. Okay, let's talk about weight for a minute. And guys, I'm not a pro. I'm going to tell you, I'm not speaking by authority by any means, but take what you want, leave what you don't. Okay. Don't take my coffee though, because my coffee is really good. Weight's going to be the same thing if you think about this. This is the sick stuff in my life I think about. You know how you know you got a really good scope? You've got a really good scope on your rifle when you zero it. You got it all set up, and then you click it 1 inch over, 1 inch up, 2 inch over, 2 inch down, 2, 1, and back 1, and your scope's dead zero. That's a good scope. That means your scope has repeat ability. Okay? What I was just talking about with volume, am I correct? We can agree we need repeat ability. Okay? So you say, well, yeah, Highboy, but I charge by volume and weigh on my scale. I say, okay, so you're weighing on your scale. So you're going by weight. Yes. Okay, very smart. That's very smart. When I'm working up my 300 PRC, I'm just not throwing that. I throw it and I trickle up. But what did I just say? When I'm doing that, my scale and my powder measure are not on the same benches over there. So you think about this. Your scale. You're charging by weight. All right. You take your scale and you set it for a certain weight, and then you increment at 5, and increment at 5, and increment at 5, and take it back to 0. Like we just did our scope. Remember how our scope was dead on 0 after we walked all the way around our target? Remember that? So now you just took your scale and you had it at 82. And now you incremented 5, incremented 5, incremented 5, incremented 5. Come back to 82 and you put your check weights on it and it's 82. You've got a good scale, okay? Great scale, okay? But guess what? You're vibrating the groundwork of where your scale's sitting, which would mean if you incremented 5 grains, 5 grains, 5 grains, 5 grains, came back to 82, if it doesn't micro check with your calibration weights at 82, my question is this: do you have a bad scale, or are you changing something on your scale? So if you're going by weight, you're going to take your scale and put it on another bench. You're going to take your powder measure, put it on another bench. Everything you do in the way of processing the cases, seating the bullet, crimping the cartridge case, you're going to do here. But everything that has to do with charging the case and weighing the charge, you're going to do over there. Okay, now that's a great question, Patriot Preacher. I've always wondered what acceptable tolerances are. Okay, now I would imagine that there's some guys out there laughing at me. They're just like laughing. Like this guy's a nutcase, man. He does not know what he's talking about, right? Well, what's the one thing I've always said in reloading? Let's say you're hiking in the backwoods and you have to cover ground fast. You are on the move. Now, as you're on the move, you'd better, with your compass, mark your spot. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So when you go back, you go right to where you were. Okay? But let's say you're one of those Snicker bar eaters and you drop your Snicker bar, your Snicker wrapper every so often, and you get back by the way of Snicker bar wrappers, and you're the good Snicker bar wrapper. You pick them up and put them in your pocket as you go. So, you know, I don't have a problem with that guy. When I see a Snicker bar wrapper, I'm like, aha, that guy, he's coming back on that same trail, and he'll pick it up because he's a good hunter. I get it, right? But what if he comes back and follows someone else's Snicker bar? You know, I've always wondered that. What if someone else drops a Snicker bar wrapper? You know, the little Snicker bites? Yeah. He's going to be off. And now he's going to wonder, and that's what Patriot Preacher's doing. I wonder. He's wondering in a different way what's acceptable. What happens to the reloader is we wonder, did I find my way back? In other words, let me explain it to you this way. You go to the range and you just develop the best load in the world, and you have to repeat that. We're not talking a cup of sugar here. We're talking a cup of perfect sugar. Oh, don't let that granule fall in there. And tap every, oh, we want every granule out of that sugar. That's what we're talking about. So, on your optics, when you're loading for that, you know something. You just loaded this up for 84.3 grains. That's it. You know something. When you go back, I'm getting my scale off this. I don't know if that's going to affect it, but that's what I did. I got that scale and I got that powder measure moved over there. Thank God for inline fabrication, because you can move stuff. And now you go over and you are weighing your charges on their own real estate where there's no vibration. That's another thing. I'm not going to go too much longer here because Golden Corral's calling. I could end up doing one of these tomorrow night, but there's another thing. This is so funny because I watch for this. I watch. I'm a scale watcher. Okay? Yesterday, I'm working up some loads all the way on the other side of the house. My wife opens the front door and my scale does this. No, it does this. I had it perfectly zeroed. It's zeroed. She opens the door and it does this. 0.3 of a grain. 20 minutes before that, I told her I'm going to shut the doors. Just so she knew. I didn't tell her why. Because I'm getting ready to work with this. So she opens the door sometime later and I get this. And that door is all the way over on the other side of the house. Okay? Movement of air is your enemy. I walk over, close the last door, and my scale does this. Oh, did you just catch that? Did you just catch that? My scale does this. What it didn't do was this. It returned to zero. Because where I had it, I didn't have extra bumps. The air movement in the house changed it, and it came right back to where it was. So you getting into precision, before you go through the mechanical motions, you want to set something up to where you are charging your cases in a different spot. Now, if that means you're going to just charge all the cases and then seat them all, then you're going to do that right there altogether. Okay? If you're going to charge 2 and seat 2, you're going to do that clockwork away. Okay? Does that make sense? Or if you're going to charge 5, seat 5, however you're going to do that. Remember, if you're going to do charge minimal cases, if you're going to do 2, you charge the 2 and you have a systematic way of checking the powder before you seat the bullets. Okay? Batch loading. A batch loading is, remember, a batch loading. I'm loading by batches. So after I charge these, I'm going to take a flashlight here and I'm going to look at those. But the terminology batch does not come with quantity. You could batch one. Before you seat the bullet, make sure you check the powders in there. If you're batching 2 at a time, you're going to look at 2 at a time before you seat the bullets, okay? Okay. Have you noticed your bench lights? Okay. No, because I use LED. I used to have that problem, and I switched to LED. It just went away. Okay. Another thing, I have a water bottle over there. I don't know if I moved it yesterday. Hang on. Go in your house or my water cooler over there. You got hair on your arms? Okay. Static gone. Static gone. I usually have a water bottle over there, and I'll wet my hands and go back like this. But then I'll spray myself, and then I'll start working. Okay. So now, Patriot Preacher's asking, I wonder what acceptable tolerances are. You can actually answer that. This is what I would say. And this is the journey I'm on. I'm not revealing what I'm doing with my 300 PRC right now because so many people are asking. The best way to answer that would be to develop your loads in the preciseness of everything you're going to do. Once you've developed the loads, then you can integrate charging it on the same bench and see what the change in air is. And change one thing at a time. In other words, let's say on your cases, you are, uniforming the primer pockets. Let's say let's say you're doing this to the case and this to the case and this to the case, and then you're seating the bullet this way, and then you crimp it. Okay. The next time you come through, change only one thing. This time, I won't crimp, and see what change that makes. Okay. Now the next time, that makes, let's say that makes a change. So I'm going to crimp, but this time I'm going to go ahead and charge on the same bench as my T7. Now, let's say you do that and I do that, and you say there, no. Let's say I do that, and some other guy out there in the world does that, and he comes back and says there's no difference. You won't see a difference. And I say, yes, there is a difference. Who do you go with? We need information. He's shooting 100 yards. I'm shooting 1,000. Get me? Don't change your variables until you are at your extreme point or your extreme. You see what I'm saying? Okay. I'm not a pro. I'm not. I never have been. I don't want to be. I'm just telling you that going back to this, your powder measure for your handgun can be right here. That's how it's mounted on your Dillon. And some guys, they run a progressive press with charging the cases right on that progressive press. I've talked to them and we agree. Remember, this has to be the same. Click, 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 click on your progressive press It's all click, click in motion. It's going to have the same powder charge, the same powder dump, okay, within reason. But there's also this long, long, long conversation in different books talking about getting this click, click the lightest it can be while being consistent on moving the powder, and you can't get that out of a progressive. Is it enough to? Is it enough? Is a progressive enough to mess you up? I don't know, but I do know some guys on a progressive do the 550 and they do this and they charge it and they weigh it on the other side of their shop. Understand, on the Dillon 550, you can use that as a single stage setup, right? To where you can charge and charge it, weigh it, and charge it by hand every time. Some guys running the Dillons have came back to that saying my charges are more consistent than when I run it on my progressive. So the issue, this is what I would say. You have to do your own litmus test work. If someone says this doesn't make a hill of beans difference, he could be shooting a lever action at short range into brush. You might not be doing that. You long live 3 right there. He's going to shoot a long way out. So I've always said you need repeatability in what you do. So once we've developed that round, we need to go back and go through every step just the way in a refined state so that we can duplicate what we did to the closest that we can get, okay? So there you go. I didn't plan on getting into that. I really didn't, but this actually came up in a conversation, and then yesterday when my wife opened the door on the other end of the house, that popped into my brain in this live stream. So there you go. You know what, for me, for precision, long range, right now until I have experience, everything counts. Everything. And once I develop the load, then I can say, well, I like my chamfer and deburr tool from this manufacturer with this angle versus this angle. And I can say, well, you know, I prefer to crimp with this crimp die, or I'm not going to crimp, or I prefer to uniform the primer pockets, but then again, with Lapua brass, I might say, don't touch them, right? So for right now, everything matters. Once I get that perfect load, then I can start trying different mechanical things and saying, well, guess what? It doesn't matter if you uniform the primer pocket. It doesn't matter. At 100 yards, it didn't change anything, right? So guess what? Why do I uniform my primer pockets? I've always uniformed my primer pockets so that I can get the proper primer seat depth for my AR rifles because of the warped heads. I've never done that for precision, because I don't do precision in my AR. Bang, bang, bang. I know, you know, I do it for the functionality of it. Okay, so I can seat the primers deep enough. So now I've got to ask myself, does that really build into accuracy? So I will report and let you guys know. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty much the end of this live stream. I know I didn't get into the dies, but give you a little insight on what I'm doing, what I'm loading for, the revolvers. Definitely the Class Act XTP bullet. Great bullet. Highly recommend it. And if you don't have a 41 Magnum, you got to have one, because I keep revisiting this on my channel. And anyone that's picked up a 41 Magnum has not been disappointed with them, you know. And it's a great revolver. As a matter of fact, you know, it's got more horsepower than the 357 Magnum, and it has less recoil because because I snuck one into my wife's hands one day. She thought she didn't really know what she's shooting, and she shot it, and it had real reasonable recoil. Then I told her what it was, and she was like, "Hmm, that's not bad." You know, no, it's not bad. It's a good little round, and it's got a big punch to it, right? And I've done a little surveying in my part of the woods here. Only thing I can't find out right now is brass for 357 Magnum, but I did a little traveling outside the area, and I found pockets that had 41 Magnum brass. I could have picked up 1,000 rounds of 41 mags. So the nice thing about 41 mag is, for the most part, when components are tough to get, that's the last thing people are taking off of the shelves. And I would like to say, I'm pretty confident that because I work with the 41 mag and I've told enough viewers about it, that any that's not on the shelf, you can blame on me. Because I have had a lot of viewers now tell me how they love the 41, and they bought it because I recommended it, right? So the one last thing, the components. I think in you know, World War II, when you couldn't get bullets, you couldn't get. I didn't live then. I can only imagine how hard it was to get bullets, and then that's why we had companies like Spear and Hornady begin making bullets. They were so hard to get. Well, these times right now makes me kind of wonder what they felt back then, because this is a different time. I've been reloading since I was 14. We have always had times, now listen to me, we've always had times, especially in election years, when all of a sudden components were a little hard to get and everyone was getting worried and they were going out buying stuff up. And for a little while you couldn't find stuff, and then they were back on the shelf, 3 months later. This is different. What's happened now to change the world from COVID, this is different. And that's why, if you can't find 41 Magnum anywhere in your area, it's because this is different. This is the real survival of components. Listen to me. If there's anything you take from me, whatever you shoot, okay, two things I'll tell you, and then I'm gonna end this. One, whatever you shoot, have ample backup. Ample. I'm not saying some. I'm not saving a lot. I'm not saying a lot. I'm saying ample. Get your if 9 millimeters your gig, you get loaded up on those components. Okay. The second thing I'll tell you, if you're a one caliber person, find another. Preferably have one American, one NATO. You would be very wise to do that. All right. When boots hit your ground, you can get ammo from either side. That's all I'm going to tell you. Wartime, you need all the advantages you can get, right? So if you're a one caliber reloader, definitely start looking at other calibers. Then the last thing I will tell you, if you're not into the 41 Magnum, over the next little while, go get you a 41 Magnum and start stocking up on those components. Because I will tell you this, when the 41 Magnum rolls out, when all of a sudden all the brass hits, it's going to be there for a while. And so that's going to give you a chance to get there, get those components stocked up. And it's a great round. It's not horribly hard on you in the way of recoil. It's got real good, solid ballistical punch to it. And it's a super fun, easy round. Okay, so there we go. Guys, I'm going to go in, get ready, go to Golden Corral, and spend time with Miss Highboy. And then I'll be coming out here later today Actually, I don't know if we'll be back out here today because we got a football game. So God bless everybody. God bless Israel. May the good Lord put his protective hand over Israel. Pray for Israel. Only vote politicians in that are pro-Israel, because the Bible says any country that's against Israel, God is against that country. And I'm tired of our politicians setting us up to fall before the Lord because of their sins, right? Uh, so I want everyone to type, if it's in your heart, type "God bless Israel." I will call you off. Okay. I'm a man after God's own heart, Christian first. Woke up this morning to my hour and a half Bible study. Me and God, pursuing God all the time. All of you guys pursue God in your lives. I really do. Understand something. Understand something. Jesus Christ isn't going to come back as a man of war until the 1,000-year reign. But the first time he comes, he's taking his children home. And if you're left, you're going to be in the 7-year tribulation. And the only way to survive that 7-year tribulation is to not take the mark of the beast. If you don't know Jesus Christ, go get you a Bible, get to reading, get on your knees, accept him as your Savior. So, okay, make sure you follow my Wednesday nights Bible studies. I'm not the pro, but Jesus Christ is my Savior, and the Holy Spirit has a great way of, revealing himself through a simple little Bible study. Okay. Alaska 1, Andy is out. Rex Chandler is out. John Williams 40 is out. Long Live 3 is out. Jeffrey Dole is out. Air Patriot Nation is out. Bear Lake 1624 is out. Timothy Burkett is out. I'm going to tell you why Israel is so important in a moment. Michael Dunn is out. The beautiful Miss Highboy is out. And then Michael Dunn is out. Lee Scott is out. Amen, Alaska 1. And then the DW 37 and their servicemen. Absolutely. So you might say, oh, I don't understand why we would want to pray for Israel. Why? Okay. When Jesus comes back to reclaim Israel, it's about his children. Okay. God made his covenant with the Jews. It's the Jew first, his children. He made the covenant with them. And then the Gentiles are saved. Those who believe in Jesus Christ are saved. So when Jesus Christ comes back, he's coming back for his children, Jews first, Gentiles second. We're going to be saved, right? But if you say in your heart, I'm not going to pray for Israel, what you're saying is, I don't care about God's children. And what God's going to do, he can pour his wrath out on a country or an individual. You want to have a really good car wreck today? You want to come down with a really good disease today? Just turn your back on God's children and say, God, I don't really care. God's going to say, okay, all right, you don't care? That's fine. Jesus Christ died for you. He made the covenant with the Jews. So he's going to call his children home to the Jewish land. You can't call your children home to the Jewish land if you have invaders. If you don't pray for them, that makes you just as bad as a country that's going to invade them. And the last time I recalled, guess who Jesus Christ is a man of war after? All those countries going after Israel. And there's individuals in those countries. And don't put yourself in the line of God's sword. Me, I'm on the side of God's sword. That's where I'm at. I pray for God's will. I pray for the Israel people. I pray for the innocent people that are being hurt, and I pray for the innocent people of the whole world, and their armies, their soldiers, their forces. Pray for them. But number one, pray that God's will be done in Israel, because it's God's will. What His will is what matters. It's not. This is not to be taken lightly. I'm telling you guys, what's going down in Israel right now, don't let a minute out of your day go without slack of saying, you know, God, I'm praying for those people that your will would be done in their lives. And remember this. Remember this. Mike Barker in the house. Oh, I have it between 4 and 6 o'clock. When I get off work, I come home and I have that. And that's mountain time. Okay. Understand something. Understand something. People get end times all mixed up. It's as easy as this. Once Jesus Christ comes back, if you haven't accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior, you're left here. And the believers are taken. And you're here. And now you know something. See, the world's going to say, oh, it's alien abduction. The world's going to say it's this, it's that. But you know, Highboy's gone. No alien's going to get me. No, that's stupid. You know I'm in heaven. And now your government tells you, you take our mark or you will suffer. The only way you're going to go to heaven, my friend, is to not take the mark of the beast. And when will God come back? Easy. 7 years into the tribulation. My Father is very precise on his time. If he says 7 years, it's not 7 years in one day. It's 7 years to the minute he will be back. And that's when he's coming back as a man of war. And when he comes back, this is what the Bible says. It just says it. Go read it. I've read it and I've read it and I've read it. And it took me some putting together, but I get it. One day when he comes back, after the 7 years tribulation, he comes back as a man of war. And guess who comes back? His children. He's going to bring his children back, right? That's when Satan gets kicked out of heaven. People go, that's when Satan can get kicked out of heaven? Yeah. Didn't you read the book of Job? Right now, Satan has access to God. He can take his angels and walk up to God and ask God to tempt you. He can walk up and say, could I tempt Critter? Could I tempt Miss Highboy? Could I tempt Lee Scott? But guess what? Into that tribulation, guess what? Satan's out of there. It's done. And he's going to lock him up for 1,000 years, right? That 1,000 years, only those who did not take the mark of the beast will be the only ones that will have that chance of salvation. Why is this important? Because at any moment, and I'm going to tell you this, no man knows when Christ is coming back. But when you read the book, you realize we're in the season. Israel became a nation in 1948. Our generations. We could see Jesus rapture, God in action. And you don't think that's a big deal? Come see me on Wednesday night for a really good Bible study. Have a good day. And don't let, what did God say? Don't let wars and rumors of wars scare you. That does not scare me. You know what? If I die today, I gain, right? So put your faith in Jesus Christ. Pick up God's word. Don't take my word for it. Go get into God's word and get really close to God. You know, a prayer I've been saying lately is the coolest prayer. I was thinking like 3 weeks ago, I was thinking to myself, how cool was that when Abraham sat down and ate with God? He's like, with God. You know, so what would you rather say? Lord, bless my food? Or would you rather say, and we've been saying this, would you eat with us? I would be so humbled if you would have dinner with us, what we've prepared in our home. And guess what God says? Oh, yeah, I would love to. I would love to. And think about this. God, he doesn't eat crap. He doesn't. Go look that book up in that word up in the King James. Go look it up. Okay. And so he comes and has a really good meal, and all the cancer we're dying from. Man, I want God there with me every time I eat. He's going to sort through all the bad, keep me healthy, keep me strong, put wisdom in me, the Holy Spirit growing. Guys and gals, that's the end of this live stream. We'll see you guys on the next. I'll try and maybe strike something up here. If not today, maybe tomorrow. Let's get the dice set up and kind of work that. And let's do some precision handgun. And we are out.